So we're going to talk about horsepower in this episode, but I'm just going to talk about it briefly in the sense of what it is in comparison to an actual horse. Because we know that horsepower is a measure of power, which is a measure of energy consumption rate. So how quickly can you drain your batteries, basically, is what power is. But more so, how effectively can you use that energy to... Because if you're just making a bunch of heat, there's not much power there, really. But we're going to talk about what is a horsepower in terms of where does that term come from? Why do they call it a horsepower? Because we just accept that term for what it is, but we never really ask, is it equivalent to one horse? Like, what does that even mean? And so I'll tell you now what it actually is. A racehorse can actually produce up to 14 horsepower. So a horsepower isn't really a horsepower, is it? But that racehorse can only produce it in bursts. It's like a sprint, basically, just for a few seconds at its peak sprint. But when we talk about 1 horsepower, it's what a horse can sustain over, I don't know exactly how long, but they can do it as like a job, you know? They can just do it all day long, putting out 1 horsepower. It's like if you had a horse working all day, that's what you would have it working at. That's how hard you'd have it working. 1 horsepower. If you push it any harder than that, it's going to get sick. It won't be able to handle the job. So that's where it comes from. It's like the classical horse in the field working hard. It puts out a constant 1 horsepower, which is pretty impressive for an animal, because for a human being, for example, that's like a sprint. So they can just sprint all day long, which is pretty crazy. But they're a lot bigger, so they're not really sprinting. For us, it would be a sprint. But it reminds me of the Coogee Rolls video I saw the other day. He said that the Master Pro... No, not the Master Pro. He was talking about just the regular Master puts out, or the battery at least, which is the weakest point anyway in an EUC system. The motor can generally produce a lot more than what the battery can provide it. The battery on the Master Pro... Sorry, not the Master Pro. The Master regular... but the high-powered battery, because you got 2 options, or I think you might have 3 options, but one of those options is a lower range battery, so it's got less watt hours, but it can put out way more power, kind of like LiPo batteries, the kind of batteries you would see in a RC helicopter drone, for example, or like those kind of applications where you want lots of power with light weight. They use lithium polymer in general, but I'm pretty sure they're not using lithium polymer there. They're using some other chemistry, but it's high-powered. And according to Coogee Rolls, it can put out a sustained 14 kilowatts, which is like... it's like 20 horsepower. Pretty cool, huh? Because think about what that means. It means we have a racehorse under our feet, basically. A literal racehorse. Big steed that weighs close to a ton, that can sprint. It can sprint harder than a racehorse all day long, sustained. What a machine. And it's so small, it's nowhere near as big as a horse. It's the size of a bulldog. That reminds me of the... Don't we have a bulldog? Isn't it? Oh no, the bull... Oh no, the extreme bull, isn't it? It's like the power of a bull too. I don't know how much power a bull can produce. Probably a bit more than the horse, I would say. They're pretty damn strong. So we've got like a bull under our feet. It's awesome, I reckon, to think about how much power is there. Because if you stand next to a 1-ton bull or a horse, a giant freaking... they're huge. They got so much strength and power. And to think our little toy wheels have more power and sustained, because they can only put out that power for like literally a few seconds, the horse. Whereas our wheel can just do it all day long. It's a marvel. It's like a superpower. Compared to any other PV, it's kind of like a superhero. So small, yet so heavy too, isn't it? It's like a little small, heavy, dense powerhouse. Just earring to go. No controls, no buttons, levers, nothing. Just stand on it and go. Just like riding a bull. Pretty crazy too, the way it works when you think about it. It's all through balance. Like this thing, if you were to just, leave it, it would just tumble over every single time, wouldn't it? But if you lean forward on it, the thing has to accelerate to keep from tumbling over. It's like out of control, you know, but in control. We maintain the chaos within limits. The thing speeds up to stop you from falling forward. Like when you accelerate, you're tipping forward. You're falling down onto your face, and the EUC accelerates to rip you back, like ripping the rug out under your feet. Do you know what I mean? It's like constantly out of control, this thing. Yet, when you learn to ride it, you have complete control. And you can use all that power so precisely. And like I said in the other episode, it's also safe for a beginner, because if you don't know how to use that power, then you don't know how to use it. You can't use it. You're just going to go walking speed, even on the fastest wheel on the planet. So yeah, we'll leave it there, guys. An aeroplane just came over. I hate when I do my recording. I've got aeroplanes flying over every 5 minutes, it seems. And I always get interrupted. Can you hear that? It sucks. And, I mean, not always, but often, you know, I'll be in the middle of a sentence and then I just have to wait literally 40 seconds of, like, I look at it on the timeline, on the soundtrack. 40 seconds each time one of these fuckers goes overhead. I've got to just sit there and count. And the other day, a helicopter went overhead when I was sleeping, like literally at 2 a.m. For 40 minutes. It just kept circling and circling. All right, let's end it there, guys. Peace.